very much. We are here today with Mark, who is the Think8 Global Institute and Aligned SUV consultancy representative. They are experts in Canada's startup visa program. Together with Dominique, who's not here with us today, they meticulously evaluate the business concepts and assess business ideas to help entrepreneurs who are passionate about creating a viable business idea in Canada to work, and they provide incubation services to the clients that we have, which is why we've set up this session today to get firsthand information, Mark, from you to be able to help and support our clients with more details and obviously give them a better service. So as I said, we're here with Mark from Think8 Global Institute, and together with Nima, who's our business director at Trust Immigrations. I will give the floor to you, Mark, to give us information about the kind of services that you have, and then I will start with some of the questions that we have from our clients, so we can get on with the session. The floor is yours. Thank you very much, Mark.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity to express it. We love this program, so more than happy to share our experience and background. I think first, as a business incubator, our prime responsibility is to help a foreign entrepreneur coming to Canada, wishing to come to Canada, to help develop the pillars necessary to build a viable business for themselves and for the country. Of course, the intent of the Startup Visa program is to encourage that kind of talent to come to the country for their benefit and for the benefit of the country. So it's a win-win for everyone. And the criteria to come is extremely generous. They say, is the idea innovative, disruptive, innovative, we would hope. Secondly, will it provide opportunity for employment in Canada? And thirdly, is it scalable? Could it be exported? Beyond that, the only other criteria is, other than the immigration side, which we don't deal with, we're strictly on the business side of things, is really the qualifications necessary for these people to build their dream. In other words, does their business plan, is it doable by the people who are applying to implement that business plan? So qualifications, a good idea, and the qualifications. And the last thing, not insignificant, is the capital, the investment capital required. We can get more specific on that later, to start a business, at least allow them the ability to operate for a year, to get their legs, and then to look for potential grants, maybe investment. So the Startup Visa program, as an international program, is one of the more generous programs that I've come across on the immigration side. I think it's a benefit and a joy for people around the world to know that Canada is open. I think they're the originators of this program, started 10 years ago, and it's vibrant and welcoming. If we simply do it right, compliant, if we follow those things, we're good. Where we fit in as a business incubator, we're one of like 40 or 50 companies in the entire country that have been licensed to provide incubation services for those wishing to come to Canada through this program. And what that means is the government has mandated that anybody who wishes to enter this program needs to be incubated by a designated organization such as ours. So that puts it's an honor and a responsibility, because naturally we're the ones that have to decide yes or no on someone's future. And we don't take that lightly. That's a big responsibility. We're talking about companies with families, kids perhaps, wanting to immigrate to another country from wherever they are in the world. It's a big decision, and we take it very seriously. We're very sensitive to that. The vehicle for them to come is to build a business, so we take that very seriously. I mean, we have fun doing it. Our process and program is very accessible and enjoyable. We make it so. However, we have to provide the basics for them to actually make it happen here. So the Startup Visa program, says to us, you decide. Well, now you have the world coming at your doorstep. So we get ideas from all over the world at various stages. An idea through a prototype. Some companies are even in revenue. So we have to determine, is it innovative? Will it, build a business opportunity, employment, and so forth? So we have a very skilled team that of technical, advisory, financial, these are on our team that look at an idea and assess its value along the criteria, and then make recommendations and so on, very proactively. It doesn't matter, this is unique to ours and very few other incubators, I'm told, it doesn't matter which category they come in. We're not specific to an industry or to an idea or a category. Because of our work generally within the SUV program and outside, because our company is very active outside. If they go to our website, they'll see we service hundreds of startups and Fortune 500 companies and multinationals. So we have a broad range of experience that we adapt for the SUV program. So we can assess very quickly the competency, the viability of an idea, and then get back to them through their representatives or them directly, depending how they come to us, and tell them, I think it's good. However, had you thought of, and get very proactive. They go back to the table, they prepare their business plan or modify a business plan and come back to us. The government has only a few things that we need in order to assess. Fundamentally, a business plan, business pitch deck, if you like, a presentation, obviously financials included in the business plan. We interview them. We also ask for a short video. We like to meet them, see them. The final interview we might have one or two before just to get to know them, to help them, advise them. Again, very proactive. Regardless of their stage of development, we're open to consider them. And that's a big plus because they might just have an idea and a tremendous passion for it. We get to work. If it's already a prototype, we can assess that prototype. Again, it's not specific to whether they have this or that. Is the idea solid enough to develop? Do we feel it has a shot? So in that regard, our incubation program is extremely generous once we accept, and it's generous in the acceptance process also. The homework done by them with their representatives or agents or however they come to us is really on their side to prepare the necessary documentation we need. And we get the turnaround very quickly. If we have all that documentation within 2 weeks, maybe 3, but mostly within 2 weeks, we can say yes or no. We can set up the interview. We get to it. And thereafter, when we do that, contractually, we send our contractual materials. We make sure that all the immigration side is well done, all the background checks and all that is handled through their immigration representatives. We look at their financial, make sure everything is in order. And then once they have that agreement signed, which they can look it over, any questions, of course, we're there to answer. Then the way we operate it is the payment is done in advance, full before we start, at which point we issue a letter of support, which is their authentic, officialized acceptance into the program. We send that documentation to them. They send it to their lawyers. We send similar documentation to the government saying what they call a commitment of certificate commitment, which says we accept them officially. So the government has a documentation. They have the documentation. We schedule them for our cohort, our next cohort. We're good to go, and we begin our program. So the time of first contact through acceptance can be very expedited, very expeditious. It doesn't take a long time to decide. Given the homework done, given the background, given the quality of agents like yourself and representatives, it makes it so much easier for us to assess. If there's something we don't find, we're very open and get back to them. If we find a kernel of something that's worthwhile, we're very generous in saying, had you thought of, look at this. If they don't have the capital, we say, look, raise the capital, come back to us. We're not going away. We like your idea. We like your qualifications. We will be there for you. So we're trying to make it very real, very open to receive them, because we understand we need them as a country and they need to immigrate. So we're on the same side. So there's kind of an overview of our program. Again, you can probably provide where they can reach us in terms of the website. The information is there. A lot of information is available, but we're adding to that information and sort of getting our philosophy, which I think is important to share.
Thank you very much, Mark, for the great information. I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
Would you please explain more to our client what is the due diligence process and why the due diligence process is so important for you and so important for the government as well, documenting of this process?
Very important question. The due diligence happens in a couple of places. One, to accept them. There's a lot of due diligence. There is background checks of the immigration people. There's English testing, etc. All of those things are basically available on the government website. You could advise them to. There's basics. Can they operate with a minimum of English or French, actually, in this country? That due diligence is really on the immigration side, first and foremost. Do they qualify just on basics to come to this country? Given that, and we rarely run into issues where they don't, because by the time they get to the immigration lawyers, things are pretty much in order. From our side, we are looking at the criteria, as I mentioned, of qualification of the people, the quality of the idea, fundamentally, and the capital to begin the investment into, building that business out. The qualifications, this is really important. The government increasingly looks at, is the business plan and the idea solid? Is it real? Are they trying to make and saying, I'll make $1 million in the first 3 months? We run into that on occasion and we say, look, they're not expecting you to be in revenue before you get your PR. However, they do intend, the government, they want to see progress. So once we accept them, the due diligence then becomes our program documented step by step by step. It's a very formulaic, not formulaic in the sense of common. It's a very formatted program, step by step, each of the 8 stages of our program. That's why we're called Think8. 8 stages of our program that takes them through the critical pieces necessary to build a business. We use it all the time. We've generated billions of dollars of cumulative revenue for our clients around the world. It's taught in business schools. It's a very, very highly sophisticated, easy to understand and apply program. We apply those tools to their development. Step by step documented. They get, each of them, videos to watch, access to that. They get written materials. They're even welcome to get my book. It's a #1 bestseller on Amazon. We can ask and talk about that later if they like. They can get a well-rounded background in who we are, well-versed in the materials itself, all of which is documented in what we call a checklist, a course checklist. When they finish watching the videos, they write the dates. When they do the exercise, they write it right in that document. That document is a running record of their experience with us. So when the time comes where there is a PR review and they are asked, have they done the work? Click of a button, they have it. They've already had it when they graduate. By the way, they get a certificate of graduation. They get the documentation there that we have a copy, they have a copy. Their whole history with us for that 6-month program is there. That due diligence is critical because over the next 2 years plus, as they move forward, when they eventually hit the PR, the government will go, well, what progress have you made? What help did you get from the incubation? Here it is. Did you show up? Here it is. We even taped several of our sessions as a reference for them and a reference for us. So we are highly compliant, over the top compliant in saying the work was done, they ticked it off, they all participated, they all got scheduled, they all showed up. The intent to build a business is genuine. So the due diligence is critical because if peer review comes up, where they can falter is they didn't show. And frankly, over 50%, it could be as much as 60 or 70% of those PRs that are refused, we've checked the statistics, are those people who never showed up. They just didn't do the work. It isn't even a technical issue. They wanted to come, but they didn't bother. The incubator can't justify, but easily 50+% on average. Why be refused because you didn't show? I mean, that's a foolish thing. On the contrary, do the work, have their documentation. What's to argue? There's the progress. And we can, continue to upload that information. Should they wish to go beyond our incubation, we have programs that go 18 months and 36 months post, which is a separate conversation, but we want to ensure that they do all the right things, but we'll certainly in the incubation set them up for the due diligence. So before, during, and after, we're covered.
Perfect. My next question is about the peer review.
Yes.
What is the peer review? How much is the chance of getting peer review when the officer wants to process the PR? And how you can help the clients to pass the peer review process?
Okay. Peer review happens when the PR is reviewed, ultimately, 2.5 years after the incubation. It used to be 14 or 18-month program. Unfortunately, with COVID and everything, you're well aware, the backlog, the amount of interest in the program has just inflated the time. When the peer review comes, it's not peer review is maybe one consequence of the initial review. They may not go to peer review. It may be fine and thank you very much. And then you get final medical checks and whatever. They send it to, a few questions to come. It's not necessarily jumping to peer review. What would precede that would be, not sure about this, a couple of questions, da-da-dum, 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 updated on how you're doing. Can you give us a more recent progress report and so on? The peer review is when there's questions that they're uncertain about. It may not even be bad questions. It may be just not sure of what's happened since. That's why we make sure to provide that information beforehand. The peer review is really what's called peer review because incubators like us are chosen randomly to sit with our contemporaries and evaluate objectively a numbered file. And we examine it through our lens jointly and determine if it's a legitimate thing. If there's questions, it goes back and forth. It can happen, doesn't always happen. If it does, ultimately, we might be asked as the primary incubator, why did you accept them? What did you do? How did they do? Were they intent? Well, here's the documentation. Here's the videos. It's all there. Like, what do you need to know? The only other piece that would be required, perhaps, and this is really at the election of the representative like yourself and the client, is after the incubation, with us or any incubator, what are they doing for the next period of time? 2 years, 2.5 years before the PR is reviewed. Are they progressing? Are you taking charge of that? You would naturally watch them. Our incubators, they literally stop, sometimes maybe go more than 6 months, 12 months, depending on their program. We have a program post-incubation. It's just beyond the letter of support. They were already accepted, where we have consultancy service should they wish our expertise to continue, all of which is documented. One way or another, it is advisable that that company, that file, keep their progress updated with their lawyers, whether they're working with us or others. The more updated, the more current when it goes to the PR and somebody's looking at that file cold, they say, well, here's the program. This is why we were accepted. I see, and this is their progress, and it's all here. It's all documented. All the immigration sides are done. The medical might want to be updated and checked before final issuance. Done. It doesn't have to be an issue, provided that we're conscious of what is expected at the end. As I said, back to the beginning, is the idea solid? Did they have the qualification? Was the business plan well received? Were they accepted by a reputable, of course, incubation company, a designated organization? Did they do the work? Have they continued to show evidence, documented evidence, rather than being asked what happened? You don't want that. I mean, it happens, but can you update us? I'd rather them having the latest. Whoever represents them, get it into them before the final review. Have they progressed? Have they shown intent? Are they in profit yet? Are they revenue? Not necessarily, hopefully by then, one would hope. Have they launched? Have they built their base in Canada? Have they opened an office? Have they begun to hire Canadians? Like, are they doing what the program is intended to do? If their intent to build a business, they've done all those things. So when it's looked at, it's really a no-brainer. If there's a point or two, they do send it to the lawyer and saying, can you clarify? Can you qualify? There may be a list of 1 or 2 or 20 things, not to be spooked. It's like, I'm not sure. Let's confirm. I'm not quite clear. What is it? How is it? Whatever, fine. Documentation in advance is the best solution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And based on your previous projects, how many percentage of the clients that you issued the letter of supports went for peer review?
Well, so far we just have a lot in the lineup, but we haven't been into peer review. It takes a while. Honestly, we've got people that we know, other incubators that are there, and people have been in for 2 years, 2.5 years, and they've yet to hear. However, not to be discouraged, because they've had their work permits, those that are essential. They're working, they're living, they're operating, they're building the business, some are in revenue. Fantastic. Like, what are we after really? They can bring their kids over. Life is moving forward. Again, It's just always the same. I say it time and time again to our applicants. Do it right. Work with qualified people. It's a wonderful program if you comply. And it's not crazy compliance. It's common sense compliance. And the government welcomes that kind of talent. They need to know that Canada is prime. It's a small country. It's a big country, but a small population. When I travel the world and there are cities that have more population, or almost as much as the entire country. So I always laugh when they, Bangladesh, I'm wondering, their audience, even on a local newscast, is larger than the entire country, nation, across the nation. But if they do it well and they're well represented, it shouldn't be an issue. When peer review comes, it should be a validation of their efforts. It shouldn't be a contest.
Perfect. One of the biggest concern that most of the clients have is if they come to Canada, put their best effort to run their business, but what will happen for their PR if the business fail, or even the business haven't started to making money in the time of the PR? What will happen? Is that affect their PR?
Not at all. The intention is that they build a business. Startups, not all startups are successful. Regardless of PR, 1 out of 10, we like to up those odds in our work with our companies. Outside of the SUV, our background, if they check our website and so on, we'll see quite a history of success. We don't have to have 1 out of 10. That's a small number. But even so, the government does not require that they be in profit or revenue to get their PR. If after their PR, the business is not successful, which would be sad, it doesn't cancel their PR. They are legitimately here. Again, the only prerequisite is, are they making an honest effort to do it? And the clients we take, I can say without exception thus far, and the way we want to screen them is, we ask them this direct question. Do you intend, after the incubation, to build your business? Or if the business, after your PR, are you going to continue with your business, or was it just the route to get here and carry on? One maybe once had thought about it and said, my God, no, too much time and effort. The rest said, we're putting this time and effort and energy. We want to build a future here. Why would we be careless about it? It's not a question at that point of government, yes or no. It's their own personal choice. We can't dictate that, and nor does the government mandate that, nor does it cancel anything. But the intent is, if they're smart, use every opportunity. It costs money with the lawyers and the travel and the relocation. Why not? And if we do our job, all of us, you, I, and everything, and look at the idea and go, worth developing, let's make it go. Now, keep in mind, by that time also, they may have attracted government funding, grants, investment. Now they are beholden, as any business, to perform. So let's not forget, and I think I really need to make this clear, this isn't an immigration program the way we see it. It's an immigration program, big immigration. It's a business development initiative, the way we see it. We're there to build a business, okay? This is our mandate. We want them to win. We want them to grow and expand. Do they want to grow a business, or is it a quick ticket in? They're not doing themselves or anyone a service. Whether they get their PR or not, honestly, I'm not the final judge, and it needs to be very clear. An incubator is not responsible for the final outcome. We are responsible for documenting our work and accepting them that we feel have a real shot. But if they really want to build a business, let's go. Let's do it and give it a real shot. I don't mean like, I'll do it sort of. So we look at it as we're in business to help you build a business to give you a future. So do the work. And thereafter, after the incubation, it's on you, not on us, to do it.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be harsh. I just want to be real. Because if they do it right, they can be candidates for help and assistance and benefits, all of that help a business grow. It is a generous country in R&D and ecosystems and technology, resources, and so on. Very, very unique in that regard. They're one of the top in the world. Why not? Unless they just want to stop and go, I'll serve coffee at a corner store. Why? When they can make a real business here. So I always check at the beginning about that point. And I say to you and to anyone that might be interested in working with us, you sincerely want to grow something, you want to build a business, we're on your side. Canada is on your side. So coming to your point earlier, due diligence, when the PR is looked at, that file is reviewed, and these steps are done, honestly, though I'm not the final arbiter by any means, what would be the problem? Isn't it obvious? So how do we make it obvious? Let's just do it right. I'll always come back to do it right. I tell you, it's so easy to do it right.
Okay. And what is your approach regarding this strategy? Sometimes the clients are planning to apply for a startup visa, but not apply for work permit, or get the work permit and not come to Canada. And they want to work on their business plan from their back home, and then come to Canada near or even by the time of getting the PR. What is your approach and what's your recommendation?
My recommendation is very simple. What's the intent of the program?
Exactly.
Show up. We don't have anybody. There may have been one exception, and that changed, where a person said, I'm just going to stay in the country and do it. And we talked to their representatives, and you can do that. But honestly, why would you? Look at the program. You don't show up. You're not setting up a business opportunity here. You're not even taking an inexpensive rental place. Work out of a kitchen. I don't care. Start networking. Start looking at opportunities. Show up. Go to conventions. Meet people. Like, are you intending, or no, I'm going to, for 3 years, going to work in, in my country, and I'll come when I'm good and ready. There's even questions that are asked on the documentation that we submit that says, in a couple of places, does this applicant, A, are they essential to the business? If they're essential, they can then apply for a work permit. They can't apply for a work permit unless they are essential, okay? And they can't apply for a PR. Their application can't go in unless they are essential. So they have to make application for a PR, and then they can get their work permit. In other words, they're in the program, okay? Then we say, are you going to show up? Because we have to say, do they intend to show up before they get their PR? We have to answer this, and we ask them. And if so, why? What is the urgency? Why? Separate question. Yep. If not, why? So we have to ask them, what do we put down if you don't want to show up? You tell me, give me the reason. Yeah. We don't have that issue. because
this is what we always
important to
explain. Yeah,
understand.
we always explain to our clients that they need to apply for work permit. They need to come here, show up, and put their best effort. This is not something that they sit back and get their PR. Because sometimes, unfortunately, in some advertising, some people say you don't need to come, you just need to sit back and get your PR and then come to Canada. This is one of our biggest challenges to explain to the clients.
I know, but I think they should keep in mind that the program that we offer is maybe 35 hours of their time with, I mean, an hour, a couple hours a month, maybe they can look at their videos, their short videos, 5 minutes each to explain their process. There's transcripts, you know, so that's easy, translatable, you know, in whatever language. They can simply cut and paste and do it, or read it English, whatever. We assist them in a lot of self-directed time to look at the materials, our methodology, and then we start to apply it. They have homework on their time. They have to get back to us in certain scheduled time, but it's doable. We're not interrupting their life and livelihood. However, in that 6 months, it doesn't have to happen within that 6 months either. Some do.
Yeah.
In one case, the whole team is coming over. They got their work, they're coming. They want to get going within the 6 month. We're going to be inviting them. They're going to be here in March or April. Fantastic. They said, we're all coming. I thought maybe the CEO would come. We're all coming. We're going to sit there. And I said, how long are you staying? For months. I said, wow, they want to test the market. They wanted this, they wanted that. Fantastic, right? They don't have to come within the 6 months, but thereafter, have they made application? In the materials and the documentation we send to the government, it's there, they'll come or they won't come, and why. So we recommend show up. But not just show up as a form, like find out this country. It's a new country. Find out how business is done, meet people, set up something. There's a huge ecosystem. Look at the schools, like, you know, welcome to the country. Let's, you know, walk the streets, have a coffee, get to know, enjoy the rain in Vancouver or not. You know, I mean, like, you can do this, but show up. And I would always advise at least one, if not the whole team, to come. But if they're essential and they're putting down in the documentation, I am essential because I am the CMO and I'm going to handle marketing well. How are they going to market? Desk research, or are they going to show up and do on-site research? Like, look at their job, and what would a PR person looking it over, would they say, they never showed up? Perfect. Why not? Who's going to get asked? Peer review. I mean, I would, wouldn't you? I'd say, you come to Canada 3.5 years and you never came once. What do you intend to build a business? How are you doing this? What have you done in the meantime? Oh, I've studied, I've been online, I've Alibaba, Google, whatever. I've done, you know, desk research. It doesn't do them a service. Again, I mean, to be fair, I understand there's family, there have businesses, but I really recommend that they show up. Perfect. What's your approach and what's your recommendation about the non-essential members in a team? What's the pros and cons for that member or for the team to go with non-essential against essential member in a team? Again, their choice. I'm not the one to adjudicate that. They might have somebody staying at home who is handling their finances long distance, or doing their bank exchange, or flowing the currency, or maybe they have a whole R&D team working there that will coordinate with the Canadian R&D team. We always encourage them to start, you know, hiring Canadians, contracting them. They don't have to be on staff just yet. That's their choice. But if they want to come to Canada, ultimately some do, some wait and will come over when they get their PR, and that's fine too. But I look at the essential. The government will look at the essential. And what they're looking for and what we look for is, how are these people going to assist in the building of this business? We'll say, for example, oh, you have an essential CEO, fantastic. Your non-essential is your IT person, and you want to develop an AI app. Let me figure this out. Your essential is CEO, your non-essential is going to stay in the country, and so on, and they're not essential, and yet you're setting up a technology firm. That doesn't compute. So if they're essential, fine. It's not that not essential is illegal, but I want to have enough essentials that I can look at this and go, there's enough resource to build this business. So we're not having one essential and the whole team is over and they're all non-essential. And I'm going, well, how are they, why are they not essential? Are they just waiting for you? Again, it's optics, but it's more than optics. I like a team that has resource, that we can discuss things, that they can share ideas, that nurture the future, a team, and each benefits from the other's input. Why wouldn't they do that? And they can't come to Canada unless they are an essential. They can't get a work permit. So they can't even show up. And if they show up, they can't work. They show up today, but if the government says, why are you here? Or, you know, the border, I'm here to help my thing, flag, they can't do that. If they're coming to work on that company, fantastic. So if they're not essential because they don't want a work permit and then they decide they want to, now we have to update with essential, we have to update the government, the lawyers have to go at it, and the question could be asked, they weren't essential, why are they now, why weren't they there? You don't want to mess with that. Why complicate it? Make the decision. It's not that things can happen and maybe somebody is ill and falls out and needs to be replaced. There are circumstances, and the government, anyone, and the lawyer, a well-versed lawyer can handle that modification. And we're not, you know, we're real about it. But essential enough to build a business. Non-essential, the consequence, not that it's impossible. We do get a few of those, but they're still helping, but they can't get the work permit and can't come to Canada for like 3.5 years. So they're remote. It's their choice. And maybe there's, you know, software development. So I don't knock it, and I'm not saying they couldn't be developing something sophisticated. Of course, I would want them to counter it with a Canadian, so it's not all developed over here and imported over there. That would be kind of counter to the intent. They want to develop a new idea within the Canadian economy and hire, but it happens occasionally. Okay. So enough essentials to show resources, flexible resources, mobile resource to come to Canada and start the job.
Perfect. What kind of help your incubator can provide to the projects that are that can be eligible for like grants and loans? Is there any like services that you can provide to them?
It's really when they are ready. And when I say ready, part of that incubation is to get their narrative, to get their messaging down and so on. They often, this is the weak point, by the way, in most entrepreneurs. They can build taking us to Mars. They can't tell you what it is. What is it? It gets you up there in space something. I mean, they can't describe it, but they can build it. Well, we happen to be communication experts as well. They read our background, they'll understand. So we help form the narrative, amongst other things. When that and that's maybe the 6th stage of our whole business design program. At that point, they can start to communicate. We recommend that they have it clear and articulate to agencies. And it can be not necessarily within the incubation period, it may not be ready, but thereafter we can always advise. We can introduce them to contacts, people who are grant specialists, who would evaluate, and it can happen during incubation, it can happen after, and this has come up a couple of times, who can evaluate, and that's a third-party cost, but it's modest, evaluate what they're doing, what grants federally, provincially could be available to them, because there's quite a few. Do they match the criteria? If so, you know, how is it going to work? So they have access and can be evaluated by our network to say, we're going to submit an application on your behalf, or here's what you will need. Such and such a grant is available, so on. Similarly to investors, when they have their pitch down, and by the way, it will grow from where they start. They're being incubated. One would hope that they gain insight and more understanding of who they are, what they want to do, the way to express it, and so forth. Opportunities they may not have thought before. That package then can be presented or tested with our, financial advisory team, investment team. We have them on our group, and they can say, here's what investors are looking for, or they can go to investor pitches or whatever. So we help through our network to introduce them to people. We're not investors. We're not responsible for raising the capital. We're a business incubator. There are other incubators, designated organizations that do invest, modestly in some cases, but we can introduce them. But the prerequisite, our program sets them up for a good pitch, if you wanted to speak in the vernacular. We want them to be solidly sure of their product, its potential, review how they're presenting it, and introduce them to the right contacts and networking of people who can advise them thereafter, who they can meet, how they can do it, what grants. But that's not where we start. We're going to just start unpacking their project, as we do, stage by stage by stage, put all the pieces in order, make it all coherent, all professional. Now we go to market, certainly to the financial side. Now, they may have enough capital for a year or two. Some are coming with a lot of capital. Some are coming with less. But regardless, if the grants are available for research and development, if investment is opportune, well, of course, we don't discourage it. One, from a business perspective, needs to know when is a good time to get capital, because when you get capital, you are obviously reducing your share. But that may be the right thing. I mean, I'm not judging that. I'm just saying there's access to money at the appropriate time. One makes the best efforts to raise the capital. But that's why they have to have enough capital in order to ride that period. And it's a really important thing to keep in mind, that investment capital, not the money for various services, ours, others, lawyers, that's separate. I'm talking, specifically determined, accounted for investment capital to build their business, at least for a year, and living expenses should they come over. Once that's down, that's a good runway post incubation. Then they have a good chance of meeting the right people, networking, traveling, finding where the money might be. There is money available. Obviously, it's a very aggressive company and rather country for entrepreneurs, provided they have the real stuff. So our intent is to make sure that that real stuff is packaged properly.
Okay. And my last question in this part, what's your approach been in the business plan for saving money and managing the resources? If we use resources out of the Canada, for example, for some kind of expertise, for example, like programming, we can use programmers like in Iran, in India, or in China, with much better prices and expenses. What is your approach if we use these resources?
Good question. It's not illegal, off policy to develop and do R&D wherever in the world. However, if it is at the exclusion, my opinion, my experience, of bringing on some Canadian resources, even a project manager Canadian who can supervise this, an IT specialist who can keep in mind that there are universities here. There are ways to work with institutions, third-party institutions that can be affordable. Grants can help to stimulate, where some of these grants are, you pay $1, you get $1.
Exactly.
Matching funds, sometimes no funds required or expenses, pure grant, etc. Those are
shared IRAP, they can really help.
Exactly. If they are already developing something, we're not trying to discourage them saying, oh, drop those people. Why? Sometimes they come over with a very set prototype developed overseas and then I'll bring it to Canada. In which case, it's a very interesting scenario, which I'll mention because I think it's an interesting case, because some of these can be even in revenue and they want to come to Canada. We get asked this, can you migrate a company to Canada, a subsidiary? That's not our, subsidiaries is not our focus, meaning there are programs, investment for companies wanting to relocate. This is a startup visa program. Therefore, if somebody wants to do a quote subsidiary or an extension or something, there has to be a creative addition and innovative next generation something. For example, there was a tire company in one country and they wanted to do a tire company here. Just bring there. And I said, that's not for the program. That's not how I understand or interpret the program. If you want to build a tire company, what innovative element can you provide in this country if tires is your thing? They went back to the drawing board and they didn't realize, because they didn't know the program, that they had were developing a new rubber compound. They had started. I said, bring that rubber compound over here and start developing it here. The science was really brilliant. We saw the drawings. You'd have to have a chemistry degree to understand it, but we got it decoded because we have experts. It was really viable. I said, become a distributor. You could consider becoming a tire distributor. You can make tire, but you have to have an innovative startup. You are a technical supply company of rubber. I mean, so they're not just going to build and bring their tires over and sell them for the store in Canada. That's not the startup visa program.
Yeah.
What are they going to do?
You know what? In the reality, during the process, if it's a real business, in the reality, we always try to say manage the expenses. For some project, it makes sense to for the team to come to Canada, work on the project, hire someone in the Canada, and beside that, hire someone outside of the Canada, outsource some parts of the projects to manage the resources. This is what
it's not wrong. I would say again, the intent. Okay. What is the purpose of the program? The intent of the program is to try to stimulate employment opportunities. If there's no attempt, no access to grants, no willingness, simply like I can get it for $20 an hour cheaper. Okay, I get it. However, why are you assuming that you can't be economical in the country? Why are you assuming, why don't you want to access some of the incentives? A lot of companies, big ones, have moved here. They could have moved anywhere in the world. I'm talking even the Google, the Apple, all of these major. Why are they setting up shop in this country? Video game companies, etc. They could hire talent from anywhere in the world. Why are they here? Because Canada is known for its ecosystem in investment, entrepreneurship, etc. Second part of that answer is, with the right incubation and understanding of where they can economize, we have been in our incubation process with certain clients explaining to them in one case that their hardware wasn't needed, their software would do it, because they had a hardware application and a software application, and they saved millions of dollars on that decision. Not because it wasn't a good idea, but when they realized what they were really about and their DNA, their real value proposition, it was software, not the hardware component, which was the manufacturing, the shipping, etc. And that saved them a couple of $1 million, and bingo, there was a savings. So it wasn't just economizing, it's understanding what their value proposition is and launching that. Nobody's saying you want to do an AI company, you need $50 million to do a platform that's complete with Google. No. What can you build? You have an idea here, And this is where our expertise comes in. What is the kernel of your idea that is valid, and where to start, and build from it? You don't have to be a $1 billion expense to start your business. What can you build that is real and affordable, that'll attract investment and is scalable and could be extraordinary, right? And we've had a lot of clients, and outside the SUV, we have clients all the time. One was building EV cars, new EV car, and realized that their real gift was integrating the software within the EV car and selling that as a platform, as a package. And they got millions of dollars of investment. So look at the hardware they didn't have to do. I'm not saying that happens every time, but there's an example of realizing what are they actually building here and what do they need to build. We're not trying to diminish the business idea. We're just saying when they examine it through our lens, they're coming to the conclusion and starting to question what they thought the investment was, and it might be much less. So to your point, is it affordable? Well, obviously, we're very real with projections. We're very real about what they feel they're going to need to raise. And we'll tell them, your platform, we know we can do the numbers very quickly and go, not going to happen. You're asking for $3 million as a startup. That's a lot. 300,000, maybe more realistic. And then we go, but what can we build? And I go, well, look what you've done. So we get them to look and go, why couldn't we start with 300,000? Get the prototype or the MVP. In other words, that's our guidance.
Yeah,
that's what we're there for. Not
makes
like
sense.
blindly, let's go and you'll get the money by, no. That's not what we do.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Behnush.
Yes, thank you very much, Mark, for the information about the whole program and everything. I'm just going to ask a couple of questions with regards to future opportunities. And because you're an expert in that, and I've read your book on this, what kind of innovation opportunities do you think are on the horizon for our clients, and what's your suggestion on them?
So let me understand your question. Innovation opportunities or business opportunities?
What I basically want to know would be the biggest opportunities that the clients can focus on when they're thinking creatively on a viable business idea.
Well, you'll love the answer because my book, and I encourage, by the way, if your clients are curious, we tell everybody in there, they don't have to, but if they really want to understand what we're doing and how to build a business, they'll do it anyway. And you can give them the book titles and all that if they wish. We operate from what's
you can give the name of your books here, then the clients can search it and find.
Well, you can do it. It's Think8. I mean, you can pop it up and.
Oh, okay.
But it's.
And you're selling on Amazon.
On Amazon, Think8.
Okay, perfect.
8 steps to ignite your creative genius and so forth. But I think what is interesting is where we come from and where we are very successful internationally is we tell the entrepreneur, what is meaningful to you? If they're looking for a market gap, okay, or a hole in the thing or an opportunity, okay. But if it's not meaningful to them, they tend to not stay with it. So we're saying, what do you see that you would love to do? Now let's build that and market that. So what I'm saying here is chasing what's out there is one way to do it. Also, with enough input going, I always wanted to make a remote toothbrush, operated toothbrush. And when on my way home, it's already operating and it can dip into the toothpaste and be ready when I come in to brush my teeth. In fact, I don't even have to touch it. It's a hands-free toothbrush. I mean, crazy. But I'd love to do that. Okay, let's go. So we like to work whatever they come up with. Do they have an appreciation and a relationship with that? Do they like it? Are they excited about it? If they're excited about it, that has a great opportunity. Trying to guess the next thing, fine. But these people are smart and they're going, it'd be really cool. And I always say, well, do you love it? And time again, entrepreneurs, I've worked with so many of them, and and they're saying, we're going to build this, we're going to do that. And I sit them down and take them through our process, which they will do. And they get challenged in a fun way. We don't even have to say it. They just look at our tools and look at their projects and go, we haven't answered that. Well, we haven't really connected with our, they kind of process themselves and they go, I'm not sure about this, but I was thinking, and then they pivot and bingo. And so sometimes they come in with idea A, and this happens and becomes A plus or A minus, but a B. In other words, they shift. And it's not that they've abandoned it, they've just refocused the idea and suddenly it explodes. And we've seen magic happen because they were going down a road. In one case, they had a consumer base that they thought was going to buy it, and they didn't realize the potential in this other consumer base, which suddenly differentiated them from anything else in the market, lit them up because their background was working with that, in this case, children. And this was a woman who was working in schools with children, and yet she was trying to do an adult application, and yet children was her passion, and she realized they need it too, and the eyes opened up. So that's what I mean. So whatever they come in with, this is where we can help, because if they have an idea, and we interview them, pre-interview them, or you do it, but however we do this, we go, well, do you love it? How do you see it developing? You've been part of our conversation. We kind of poke away going, what do you want to do with this? How, like one of your recent applicants and so on. It was fascinating to look at what they were trying to do and understanding its range of application. And we only scratch the surface because what they want to do is amazing. But through some questioning, they made even more of a connection. They started with a real place, but they ended. So in short, something that's meaningful to them. We're open to anything, but sooner or later, I'm telling you, they're going to end up with something meaningful because they're not going to really gain from the process or even, I believe, be successful if it doesn't resonate. So one way or the other, whether they come in with an interesting idea, they're going to go out of our incubation engaged. I can guarantee, because they go, this is really good. We had one group come and extremely successful in another industry. And they were developing this and using their expertise, technical, to build this thing. It wasn't their business, but it was their ability technically to devise this incredible project. And they were kind of into it. And then with some questions and everything, and as they went down the road, they went, I'm loving this. This is really good. And suddenly it wasn't just an exercise in facility with technology. It opened up because we asked a couple of questions and we were able to align what they did before and integrate that into this. And their eyes popped out and they went, this is really going to do great. This is going to make, I'm on board. And you can see the shift. Well, this is what we want. They were good. They connected and their interest level went out the roof and their thinking went out the roof and their ability and their financing went out the roof. Why? Because they connected with what they want to do. So in short, I think I've written about it. I lecture the world about it. It matters. If you love it, people would say, it's a luxury to love what you do. And I'm going, that's so sad that you even said that. Because, I'm indulging, I suppose, because I enjoy helping entrepreneurs succeed. So we are very sensitive to that point, to your point. We're open because we're not specific to the industry. We take a good idea from whatever industry and whatever level and evaluate it on its own merits and look at what it could be, what it is, but always what it could be. So our job is, what's its potential and can we grow its potential? Why else are we there? We would be doing a disservice. We would be dishonest with ourselves if we went, okay, you want a pen that goes and lights up as a flashlight? Okay, why would we stop there? That would be ridiculous. That is not the work we do. And that is why companies come to us going, I really want to build a business. And you guys apparently build businesses. And I go, we do. That's why we're doing this. We want you to win and we want the country to win. So we match these two. And one of the things I will add, by the way, in the business plan, and we may have mentioned this before, be mindful not only of the benefits to the applicant, but the benefits to the country. And we can send you, and I think we may have already sent you some points that we have drawn from the government, from the written materials, speeches we've heard, campaign promises, the whole thing of what benefits are important to the Canadian economy when somebody is entering this program. In other words, that business plan, while it's very good for them, the applicant, and it should be, we've actually identified, it's a really good list for them to be conscious in the development or redevelopment of the business plan, to keep in mind there's a country accepting you. What's in it for them? And it's not just employment opportunities, even educational opportunities, mentoring opportunities, things you wouldn't necessarily think about. Those are really important because those are the ones that are spotted. Are these people coming with an idea, good for them, but show me how it benefits us? So a good idea can have a great impact, right? And a brilliant idea can have a minimal impact because it wasn't thought about. It's all good for them, but not considering the rest. So again, do it right. You know, that's my personal message. It's there as a program, accessible to all, done right.
Thank you so
Perfect.
much. So we definitely want actually our clients to be, looking to into an impact for the country. But again, the intention of our clients sometimes is to expand beyond the nation and go global. So what kind of support do you provide for that in your incubation services? And do you even do that?
Well, the whole secret of scaling is have such a solid idea and a solid home base from which to expand. If you're just chasing other countries, and we've seen really good ideas get diffused because they're all about quantity and distribution, and they forget who they are. This is even true with the multinationals we work with. They lose their way. So Canada as a base is an incredible base. It has access to the US, there it is. It has access to Europe, access to the East. Get a foundation. You get a solid foundation, you have the working capital, you can get the investment, you can get the grants, whatever, you can build the base. The companies that come aren't just thinking solo, singularly about a country, even like a Google. They're doing research and they're shipping it everywhere. They can do their R&D, they can do all sorts of things. While the hub of their engine, their creative engine, is Canada. And if you think of it that way, think of it as the engine that's going to generate not only this idea, but multiple ideas. One of the things we find often with a company, they come with an idea, but they're not even aware of the potential of that company. They got the resources, they have a specific product in mind, and they've labeled their product, this is part of the marketing, as the maker of, toothbrushes. But yet they haven't even thought that they're in the business of oral hygiene. So they've limited their whole approach. If the hub, Canada is an incubator par excellence. So not just incubation in the SUV. Think of it as a hub of creativity. You nurture, you test, you market, you do prototypes, all that. You have something or some things, plural. Now you can raise the capital. There are banks that can go and help export, Canada banks and various other things that can export the idea. But use Canada not only to generate income, but from a scalability point of view, the government goes, you're going to take that toothbrush and get it out. Fantastic. People brush their teeth all over the world. Let's go. Fine. So look at Canada as a creative hub set up for the entrepreneur. If you think of it that way, it's a very sane and correct way. Build a solid base, but nobody's discouraging you from exporting. In fact, the SUV says, go scalable. Export, they use the word export, global, but do it sensibly. If the core is stable and the resources are there and the innovative, juices are flowing, then it's like it just radiates out around the world. You don't even have to relocate. And then you can set subsidiaries, you can set all kinds of other companies, and some start here, and I've seen incubators start here and export and set up in the US. Another factory, another this. To your point, they can suddenly get R&D going in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
right? But the hub, lifestyle also, let's not forget lifestyle. They're living well, their families, whatever. I think from a mindset point of view, you have a country that is free, freer, certainly than many, unfortunately, free. And the mindset, the community encourages this. So it's a wonderful base, family-wise, stress-wise. You can, all of the pluses of why somebody wants to live in an environment like that. That all aids in the creative capacity of that company. So I don't discount that. So that's it. And then that support leads to globalization. And our job is to set up that, core, help nurture that core, get the resources, get the connections, the networking, so that it's stable. Then they can build over the next 2 or 3 years, whatever it's stable, and they're on their way.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I usually end the meetings with with a success story that I ask for, but you've given us multiple success stories that you've had, so I'm just going to refrain from that question. Thank you so much.
It's great. I mean, again, the work you're doing, bravo. The quality of the people, if they sincerely want to be part of this program, it's one of the best. It's being copied everywhere in the world now, this program, replacing other immigration programs. So the reason that this is really the future of Canada, future of other countries. So they're welcome. Just let's do it properly. Let's have fun doing it. Let's offer our best. And it's a win-win, multiple win for everybody. Thank you for the time to explain. I hope I've outlined certainly our philosophy as such. And
thank you very much, Mark. I always enjoy talking to you. You are so realistic and also supportive for the clients. Thank you very much for the information and the time.
My very welcome. All the best.
Thank you.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.